Shawarma is actually derived from the same origin as the gyro, stemming from the invention of the Turkish doner kebab during the Ottoman Empire's rule in the 19th century. The process and final goal are identical between the kebab and shawarma. Meat, separated from bone and muscle, are stacked vertically atop a spit, allowing the meat to effectively base itself with the assistance of gravity. This technique was lifted and applied by numerous neighboring countries, two of those being Lebanon and Jordan. They took the vertical spit, they drew from the concept of an inverted meat cone, and they made it their very own in shawarma. It is important that a clear timeline for shawarma's growth be established, even if only in broad strokes. While the dish finds its root in the Ottoman Empire, it did not truly develop its intensity until the 20th century. As populations from regions such as Palestine, Lebanon, and Syria moved and urban centers expanded, the spit roasting tradition spread through cities like Damascus and Beirut. Sorry if I butchered that. With the rise of street vendors and small family-run shops, shawarma quickly became an established and beloved staple of everyday cuisine across the Levant, securing its place in early Middle Eastern food culture. So with that path paved, I can now begin a discussion on A, what an authentic shawarma may resemble, and B, where those historically sound ingredients fall from. Something incredibly notable to mention when discussing shawarma is its flavor. Though lamb, beef, and obviously chicken can be taken as authentic rotisserie meats used for shawarma, common ground across all of them lies in the spices and technique applied in the marinade process. The most typical ingredients observed in the marinade include tomato paste, which was led down a continental line to eventually encounter the shawarma-producing countries. Originally derived from Mesoamerican civilizations, then brought to Italy by Spanish explorers, carrying them over from the New World. Italy is cited as the creator of the paste, long reducing them in a pan until a dense slop emerges. Tomato paste was brought to Iran in the 19th century due to long-drawn trade relations, and with its rich, binding taste, its production came to be industrial matter very quickly. Its exclusion in the marinade allows the mixture to better adhere to the meat, so the overall mixture, not just tomato paste, and additionally caramelizes whatever surface it binds to, spurring decadent bites of char and sweetness. Garlic is another necessity. It's believed to fall from some part of Central Asia and has evidently been cultivated for millennia upon millennia. It was originally taken as a jack-of-all-trades by the first few cultures to adopt the bulb, leveraging it for medical use and dispersing it as a strength-enhancing device. Given its noteworthy praise, garlic quickly spread up the Fertile Crescent, as it's known, and almost instantaneously dipped into the Middle Eastern culinary practice. As for the shawarma marinade, the oils emitted by the garlic fuse with all other ingredients included, enrobing the meat in a luscious bath. Something that I think is best to note right here is that toom, a blend oil and garlic sauce, which is almost always topped on shawarma, is the standard condiment for maximized authenticity. Spices are obviously a necessity in any form of marinade. Common blends for shawarma include coriander, cumin, turmeric, cardamom, among others. Each of these is a staple of Middle Eastern cooking. One final necessary mention comes to the department of acid. Lemon zest and juice is the final ingredient needed for minimalistic shawarma marinade. What country the lemon is actually derived from is almost entirely a judgment call, sifting through numerous pieces of evidence and indicators, but the roundup of potential places can be narrowed down to either northeastern India, southern China, or northern Myanmar. The fruit is believed to be a hybrid, a cross between the bitter orange and citron. It fell down through Asia, eventually gracing Arab grip. The trade valve kept open and, obviously Arab countries passed it on, but the lemon was and still is commonly used across many dishes in the Middle East. Lemon is used to tenderize the meat in the marinade and serves as a potent counter to many of the earthy flavors coming from the spices. After your shawarma meat emerges charred and juicy after some hour-long stretch of cooking on the rotisserie, all that is then needed for a complete dish is a flatbread, most authentically Saj bread. Saj bread is a thin, pliable bread cooked over a griddle. It's believed to have originated in the Levantine region. In 1975, Lebanon, a country taken as a primary starting point for shawarma, and its future was uncertain. As a product of accumulating class disparity and perceived lack of accountancy for the large and widespread demographics tended in the country, a civil war broke out. It was fought between a number of factions, but primarily between Christian and Muslim groups. So they obviously had a relationship long prior to the war, and it had been broiling for decades upon decades. So even with a rapidly expanding population of Muslims and Palestinians, Christians still appear to be given full priority in any policy-making aspect. So rather than turning to the federal government and blaming them, it was just a relationship contained to those two. The beginning of the war, coupled with a poverty belt of broken down settlements all across the country, started an exodus of around 1 million people. For refugees, America was treated as the one all-encompassing canopy. The Lebanese took to America for a wide range of reasons, though they all do obviously branch from the beginning of the Civil War. Many arrived for proper schooling, hoping to find permanent residence at universities. And a phenomenon known as the brain drain, highly educated professionals took to America to receive greater opportunities while simultaneously dodging military service. And with the Hart-Celler Immigration Act of a decade prior, no discriminatory allocation could be made, further permitting Lebanese refugees to enter for any personally granted reason. Among the cultural imports Lebanese refugees brought them was obviously shawarma. Arriving in American cities such as Detroit, New York, and Los Angeles, the immigrants opened small restaurants and food stands, both to serve their communities and introduce local flavors to Americans. Shawarma's preparation and presentation were adapted to American tastes and obvious constraints with a lack of ingredients available, often served in pita bread with tahini, pickles, and a salad, making it portable and convenient, and leveraging themselves at American script, hoping that it'll expand, which it ultimately did, just due to its convenience and among other things. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, shawarma had begun to appear in not only Lebanese-owned eateries, but also in food fairs and even urban mainstream markets, laying a foundation for the widespread presence of Middle Eastern cuisine in the U.S. today. As Lebanese immigrants introduced shawarma to the United States, they just began to evolve in ways both subtle and significant, reshaping how it's prepared, presented, and perceived. Traditional roasting over charcoal often surrendered way to gas or electric rotisseries, not simply out of convenience, but also adhering to health regulations and the realities of urban kitchens. Changes that quietly shifted the flavor. A little less smokiness can be observed with an electric stove than it can be with over a direct flame or charcoal. Mayonnaise were tempered to suit broader palates, with spices such as allspice, cardamom, and sumac used more sparingly, just only little dashes here and there, while sauces took on a creamier, sometimes sweeter character, kind of throwing off the texture of the pita and kind of soaking it in liquid, or just really altering the texture of the dish in general. The bread changed too, as I just mentioned. Pita, or sage, became softer, thinner, and more flexible, able to contain generous fillings of lettuce, tomatoes, pickled vegetables, and even rice, catering to largest appetites. As we know, and as has likely been observed across all my videos, we see with America how they just continually glump on more and more ingredients, obviously lending themselves to both the appetites and the preferences of Americans. Shawarma was increasingly pre-sliced and pre-wrapped prior to cooking, reflecting the American demand for portability and just on-the-go cooking and eating. While menu descriptions translated Arabic terms into more approachable phrases like Middle Eastern chicken wrap, just really condensing the true meaning of the dish. These adjustments, though pretty subtle, allowed shawarma to maintain its cultural essence while becoming unmistakably adapted to its new home, a dish at once familiar and distinctly American.